Setting goals and objectives. Listening to a wide range of social media sites and observing the location, behavior, tastes, and needs of the target audience is key to successful social media marketing. It helps marketers set optimal goals and determine the most suitable strategies to achieve them. So based on the information that you find out, the more information you can find out, the better, by the way, because it gives you all that data to be able to work with, to be able to assess and make the necessary strategy goals for you to be able to see success. So the more you listen, the more that you will be able to successfully put together these goals and strategies. Goals must be flexible in the light of new developments while engaging in social media. If you learn something new and it goes against what your current social media marketing plan is, you may need to make some changes. If you're not having the effective reach that you wanted, you may need to adjust. Those things, the way to kind of think of it is that your social media marketing plan should be a living document. It shouldn't be set in stone. It's something that should have the ability to change as you see that certain goals are not being met, or perhaps you're meeting goals too quickly and you need to create new challenges for yourself. Be flexible. Customer service is one of a handful of key objectives that marketers often adopt. A lot of times people will interact with brands on their social media platforms looking for help and assistance, and companies that are very active online that take advantage of when customers ask questions or pose problems on the online space tend to get very positive feedback from those customers, so long as the interaction is authentic and is customer focused. Accomplishments like increased market insight, improving business partnerships, and even lower marketing costs may seem to be reasonable outcomes of social media marketing. So the more that you engage, the more that you reach out to the people that are followers of you and put content out there that appeals to more users, the more easily that you're going to see your numbers increase in terms of likes and follows and those that interact and ultimately patronize your business, which are all things that companies are looking for. Search ranking has changed significantly since the early days of the internet. Content is king. So while they're still looking for links and for keywords and things like that, the idea of having as much information as possible that's easy to read, easy to find, easy to navigate through is definitely something that has the companies that have done that successfully have seen incredible results in terms of putting content out there and making it so that the search engines can easily tap into the material that you have out there. Of the 10 most important ranking factors, 7 were social signals. So it's not just about your website. It's not just about the content that you create and that you control. Again, the social media landscape is such where it's much more customer focused and the customer controls the narrative. So you want to be aware of that as you're creating content for the social media landscape. Secondary objectives in social media marketing campaigns can include achieving a desired brand positioning, to put yourself out there as a company that is interested in you, the consumer. Producing new product ideas, getting suggestions from your user base and listening to some of the things that they have to say in that regard. Being prepared to handle reputation management in a crisis. What do you do when you get negative comments or negative hashtags? How do you handle that? and supporting public relations and advertising in campaigns. Putting out information about your company, information on new products, new services, the way that you leak that out to certain segments of your audience. All that can be very much a nice side effect of effective use of social media. So where do your actual objectives for social media marketing and your social media marketing plan come from? There's this nice graphic in your textbook on page 32 that has a nice summary of the points that we're going to be talking about here. There's 5 different aspects that we're going to talk about. First off, exposure. Exposure is the opportunity to see and or hear a piece of content in any channel. The more platforms that you are on and the more that you tailor your content to the specific needs of that particular platform, the more awareness you will create for your material. Second, engagement. Engagement is often measured as some variant of time spent on the piece of content. Is your content quality material? Does your content provide the right amount of information that your followers are looking for? It doesn't mean that you put everything out there so that it becomes too complicated, or that you don't just put fluff out there, because people are looking for bona fide content. How much you engage in terms of what you put up there, and then how you interact with your user base. Very important. Influence, the ability to affect attitudes and behavior. Does your presence online help to be able to shape attitudes and comments and thoughts and reactions? Impact. How does a social media marketing activity affect business results? How does it affect the attainment of goals? Are you in a place where you're seeing what you do create a positive benefit? That's important. And then advocacy, the attempt to understand the effect of word of mouth. How are the customers controlling the narrative? Are they standing up for you? Are they helping to promote your message? Campaign-specific and platform-specific social media marketing objectives. Again, there's a good graphic in your textbook. It's on page 34 that kind of shows some of the things that we're going to be talking about here. First off, overall business goals are the basis for objective setting at any level of the organization. So this is where you're talking about very measurable sorts of things. What sort of criteria you have, and how can you measure how well you have achieved that goal. Corporate business goals, however, are broad, driven by the vision and mission of the business. So these are those things that tend to be more abstract, that don't necessarily have a number attached to them or a certain measurement mark, but they're things that when you look at the big picture of how you're doing and your success or failure in those things, to see how well that you are actually achieving towards your actual vision and mission, your end game that you have strategized for where you want to be. After the vision and mission statements have been created, actual objectives are generally going to be financial in nature, because most of us that are doing social media marketing strategy, we're in business in one way or another, and we do want to see a financial gain. There's going to be other benefits as well, but in the end, we're all looking to make a living, perhaps make a profit, and a decent profit at that. So that's something that we're watching for. Social media marketing objectives can be stated as goals to be achieved over a similar planning period of well, perhaps a year, perhaps 6 months. The timing, not so important as much as there is the fact that there is a planning period. However, though, you may also state these goals for a specific campaign. In other words, a project that you have going on. You want to see an increased customer base for a loyalty program, might be an example of that, or to see certain types of content being shared more often. Those sorts of things might be a little more specific in terms of achieving an actual goal as opposed to setting a deadline in terms of a time frame. However, the time frame is still important. The time frame should be explicitly stated as part of the objective, and it's wise to choose a limited number of goals for a single campaign. You don't want to try to take on too much at once, because you want to be able to focus on the things that you want to see have done within a certain amount of time, and to set those goals in such a way that you can focus on those and be able to very clearly measure them, as opposed to dealing with several different types of objectives, some of which may even be counterintuitive to each other or demand more time in one area than another. It's best to be able to set your goals in such a way that you can achieve those goals and focus on them. This leads us to the SMART goals. SMART goals are a system in which all objectives should be judged by the following criteria. And the criteria all spells out to the word SMART. Your goals should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time delimited. Your goals should be specific. Give a criteria in which your goals are going to meet. That put a number to it, put a volume to it, put a percentage to it. Put what you want to clearly see at the end of the goal in terms of the vision that you have in place. That it's something that you can very clearly describe. That's not too abstract. Measurable. Again, numbers would be a great way to be able to do that. That you can see the amount of success that you've gotten from the beginning of setting that strategy to the end of the time at which that you've set for that goal to be achieved. Speaking of which, the goal should be achievable. It's something that should actually be able to be accomplished. The goal should be realistic. It's something that should not require supernatural, extranatural sorts of activities to take place in order for your goals to be able to happen. They should be things that are reasonable for you or for your company to be able to do. Finally, time delimited. Set a deadline. Doesn't mean the deadline can't be moved in one way or another, because again, our goals should be flexible, but it should give you a mark to be able to say that I want to achieve these things in a certain amount of days or months or years or whatever it may be. But all of your goals that you set should be able to meet these 5 different criteria: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time delimited. SMART goals. Determining strategies. What are the overall goals? Look at the mission and general marketing goals of the organization when creating social media marketing strategies. Social media marketing should not be an isolated part of the marketing strategy. Rather, it should link into a broader marketing plan. So we've been talking a lot here in terms of just meeting our social media marketing strategies, but it should be part of the overall vision and mission for the particular marketing department, what other types of marketing may be happening within a company. And they should fit the overall vision and mission of the company itself. All of those things should be in sync with each other. What was learned from listening? The listening stage should have unearthed information about the company, its target audience, its competitors, and the industry as a whole. Marketers should be able to answer the following questions. First off, how do people feel about a company, product, service, person, or issue? How are competitors using social media platforms? Which media platforms appear to be the most viable in order to achieve social media marketing goals? Where does a company's target audience hang out, and what do they do there? And how can this information be used to identify strategic opportunities? So, all these questions should have been able to be answered in the listening stage if you were paying close enough attention and were doing your best to figure out how to best reach your audience. And the best way to reach them is to respond to the things that they're doing, and the way to respond to them is to actively listen to them. The third part of determining your strategy: what best practices can be applied? Use the best practices that will help shape your marketing goals and strategies. So these are the policies that you're putting in place to be able to respond to the things that you've seen and observed. Put those policies into place and then stick by them. Be consistent with them. That said, goals may change. You may have to be flexible as well. The social media planning model is a fluid circle. It is flexible and adaptive. Social media strategy can be best described as a broad statement of what marketers want to achieve for the brand in social media. So if you find that something's not working, or that there's a differing trend that is happening, because remember, listening is a very active part of the cycle process. It's something that we need to continually be doing. And if as we're listening, we're finding out different information that may cause us to have to pivot and do something different, we should be in a place where we are able to do that. The 8 C's of strategy development, some things that may help you here. First off, categorize social media platforms by target market relevancy. Put those things into nice little columns to help you to be able to gauge and compare. Comprehend the rules of the road on the platform by listening and learning how to behave, successfully spark conversation, and engage the participants. So make sure that you are aware of what you need to do and how to conduct yourself. Converse by acknowledging and responding to other users of the platform, always remembering to be a contributor and not a promoter. So the idea here is not to push a sales call on people when you're engaging with them in conversation, but to actually be a part of some of the solutions that they have need of finding the answers to their problems or the answers to their needs. Be there as someone that is keenly interested in and desires to see their own betterment. Fourthly, collaborate with platform members as a means of establishing a mutually beneficial relationship with the platform participants. Work with them and help them to be able to realize what they want to have realized. Contribute content to build reputation and become a valued member, helping to improve the community. Don't just collaborate, but also give towards the cause. Connect with the influencers so that you can enlist them to help shape opinions about your product or service. Be actively reaching out. Be actively in communication. Offer assistance as is needed. Allow them to offer you things that perhaps would be helpful and beneficial to you. Community participation and creation can elicit valuable customer suggestions for improving products and services. Again, don't just be there trying to sell. Be there as an active part of the movement that's happening. Finally, convert relationships built in social media to the behaviors specified in the objectives. Linking goals with a call to action. One clear marketing Once clear marketing goals are established, I should say, it's important to link those goals to a call to action. This process will help design and measure social media campaigns more effectively. A call to action is simply the behavior you want the potential customer to exhibit at each stage of your marketing campaign. The goal is to increase the level of interaction and engagement through small incremental steps. So at each point of engagement, we are looking for our user base to hopefully move closer and closer and closer towards patronizing our business, our products, or services, to be influencers for us on our behalf, to engage them into different types of actions. But we don't want to try to convince them to do everything all at once. We want to do it slow but sure, because people don't necessarily want to be sold to, but they want to see that you're trying to build a relationship of trust and respect. And as you do that, that's going to be an investment of time that is going to show that you have value for your user base. And the more that they sense that trust and respect, the more that they will return trust and respect to you, and that there will be able to be some business interactions that happen as a result. A call to action that seems artificial, forced, or overly aggressive is less likely to be successful. Again, be genuine, but be slow. Don't push people to do things quickly. Don't push people to do things that require a huge amount of investment. Take it easy. The call to action must be an extension and continuation of the entire marketing piece. Sunita Biddu has this to say: if you have not convinced a potential buyer of the value of your product or service before they get to the call of action, it will not work. So, in other words, your interactions with the public need to be such so that you are developing that trust relationship, that you're developing that relationship of respect in such a way that when you do want them to jump in on what it is that your goals are, that they will be convinced that that is worth doing. At every stage, the call to action must implicitly answer the consumer's question, what's in it for me? Because here's the thing. Whenever we go out and we buy things, we may think that we're going for a particular product, but the fact of the matter is, in the grand scheme of things, we're not necessarily looking for products. We're looking to be satisfied with a certain need or a desire that we have. You may think you're going out and buying shoes, but what you're really trying to do is you're trying to keep your feet dry and safe and protected, to be able to help you to accomplish walking in rough terrain, in cold temperatures, all those sorts of things. If you had the ability to do that without needing a pair of shoes, then you wouldn't go out and buy a pair of shoes. But you see the need to keep your feet clean and dry and safe, so you go out and buy shoes. And that's true with any sort of product or service that's available out there. We're not always necessarily, we're not out there wanting to spend our money on a bunch of things for the sake of those things. We're doing it to increase our quality of life. We're trying to make things easier on ourselves. We're trying to fulfill a certain desire that we have. We want to be satisfied with what it is that we have. So a lot of times when we are purchasing things, we're asking that question, what's in it for me? And as marketers, we need to be able to think about that from the customer's perspective. What's in it for me? Are they wanting to buy a product simply because you have it available? No. What they want is to be satisfied with the purchase so that their life is better. And the way that you can help them to do that is to market to them in such a way that they understand the value of your product and helping them to be able to solve their problems and to be satisfied with the results. Effective social media marketers should have some idea of what their audience's goals, motivations, and communication preferences are through the listening process. A strong call to action will put that knowledge to work. So, again, based on the things that you learn, the strategy that you put in place for your call to action to get your customers to inch closer and closer and closer towards your goals should be done so in a way that it does satisfy their goals and their motivations, and to do so in a way that's very appealing to them. Let's talk about self-promotion versus building an army of advocates. Advocacy goes beyond focusing social media efforts around brands themselves and simply publishing content about the brand. It's a more complex concept than simply measuring social media success based on the number of followers or mentions. Again, it's not about necessarily having hundreds or thousands of or millions of people that like your platform. The thing of it is that there's much more that goes into the end results of what we're trying to do. We can't live off of a million likes. We live off of the generation of revenue from our sales. So we want people to do more than just like us. We want them to engage with us and then ultimately patronize us. But again, it's a slow process where all these different things that we've been talking about will inch customers closer and closer and closer towards our ultimate end game, which is success from a business standpoint. These brand advocates will talk to their friends not because of a contest or a prize, but because they are truly passionate about a business and want to tell the world. So think about in the computer landscape, for example. Talk about mobile phones in particular. There are people that are fanboys and fangirls of Apple products, and there are people that are truly passionate about Android. And each of them will talk about the pros and cons about each platform, and have made a decision about why they like one over the other. Some to the point, the Apple followers in particular, that they will wait in line for the next new product, be willing to pay for the product at just about any price, because they are sold on the things that Apple has to offer, the way that they do it, the types of service they get from using their products. And people feel the same way about Android for many other reasons in terms of its open source availability, the ability to go from device to device to device without being locked into the Apple ecosystem. So on both sides, you have some very passionate followers. The same can be true about different types of cars. There's those that are very passionate about Ford products, as opposed to those that are passionate about Chevy products, as opposed to those that are passionate about Dodge, as opposed to imports. And there's various reasons why people have that passion about those sorts of things. And what we want to do in terms of the social media landscape is help those that are passionate about what it is that we do to be able to give them a platform and give them a voice to be able to share their passion with others. So the way that we do that is by building relationships with these people. Building and cultivating those relationships can deliver direct value for a firm. Building relationships and rewarding or giving attention to your fans are key drivers of word of mouth. And again, we consider that to be some of the best type of advertising for us. Consumer online reviews and expert online reviews are consistently second and third as purchase influencers. So in this case, they're not relying on so much what we say our product or service is all about and how good it is, but listening to other people, to ordinary people that have used the product, have experience and exposure to it, and are genuinely speaking from that standpoint. Something else to keep in mind here is that customer advocates are people most likely to come to the brand's defense if it's needed. Having honest, regular people who are not employed by the company defend a brand can turn an entire conversation around. Because again, the narrative's not coming from us, it's coming from the consumer. Many customers are flattered when businesses take time to respond personally to problems. If a company responds quickly to negative comments and resolves the situation professionally, it can change an initial bad impression into a lasting positive one. So we want to develop those relationships with those people and keep them satisfied as best as we possibly can. And the best way to do that is develop those relationships of trust and respect, to interact with them on a genuine level, and to make them feel valued and appreciated as they interact with us. Best practices for developing a social media strategy. First off, start with a roadmap. This roadmap is your SMM plan. At minimum, it should specify these things: who your target audience is and the audience characteristics. What are they all about? How you plan to interact with the audience. How you will measure the success or failure of your activities. Do you have your SMART goals set up in place? How will you adjust to stay on track to meet your objectives? Is your plan flexible enough to be able to change when you notice that there's different things going on and that you need to change things up? Second, listen before you start interacting. Listen strategically before you engage with your audience, then offer respect, empathy, and content of value before you ask anything of them. So give them what they want, give them what they need, and then they will turn around and then be possibly willing to give back to you. Welcome audience participation, feedback, and collaboration. Be in conversation with your user base. Fourth, give your social media strategy an adequate amount of time and resources to become successful. This is going to be a long-term investment. You're not going to see results immediately just by being online. You have to be discovered. People have to be aware of who you are, what you're doing, what you're all about. Develop time to develop that trust relationship, and then you'll see the benefits. Finally, be flexible. Social media itself is constantly evolving. Your social media strategy must have the capability and the capacity to adjust to change in a way that furthers the achievement of business and marketing goals. Make your social media marketing plan a living document. Change it as necessary based on changes in your audience base, changes in technology, changes in the uses of platforms, and be willing to take a different direction as is necessary while maintaining your overall strategy and your vision and mission for what you want to see become a reality.